Good morning, one. Dr. Stillman and Jim Laird here. Obviously, I'm Jim Laird. That's Dr. Stillman. I'm a little thrown off because usually Dr. Stillman does not join me right at the beginning of the show.
It's true.
It's throwing me off a little bit.
It's true.
Our guest has not joined us yet. That's the beauty of live shows. Yesterday, we did a video. I would highly recommend checking that out. It's on both our YouTube channels. It basically goes over all the services we have here at Stillman Wellness and Stillman MD. And that way we kind of clear up some of the confusion because we have released a lot of courses and services in the last year to better suit your needs based on the demands that we've gotten over time.
That's exactly right.
Dr. Stillman, until our guest shows up, let's talk a little bit about the importance of nitric oxide and why it's so important and where most people go wrong with it.
Nitric oxide is a great topic. It's a very complex one. And I think that there's a lot of noise out there about it. And there's really only one thing that I want to talk about. Wendie's here. Hi, Wendie.
Hi there.
Wendie, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm fantastic. How are you guys?
We're great. Thank you.
How's the cold and frozen Minnesota right now?
Oh, no. It was 100 degrees yesterday.
That's right. It's August.
We get the Florida heat sometimes, just for a little sliver.
August. Got it. How are you?
I am fantastic. Yeah. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me, you guys.
You're welcome.
It's fun.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, it's always like a can of worms to open up, right? Like I could start early on, but I'll tell you, I'm a Texas girl at heart. I live in Minnesota, been here 25 years, but yeah, I'm still a Texas girl. In fact, my family was just in town, and you may hear a little more y'alls than normal, a little more twang.
Yeah, that's great.
It just kind of happens. Anyway, so I have been a student of physical culture for as far back as I can recall. Used to teach aerobics when leg warmers and headbands were cool.
Oh, wow.
To the American Airlines Institute Center for just different corporations and different things like that. Anyway, over the years, it's just kind of evolved. You know how God does that. It just evolves. And mine was kind of evolved by accident, if there is such a thing. I was actually in a snowmobile accident up here in Minnesota over 2 decades ago, and was going about 55 miles an hour and hit a big chunk of ice on the road, and I got off the trail and I ended up hitting a snow-covered culvert and went flying headfirst through the sled, and I hit a tree. And it's pretty much a miracle that I'm here today. But basically, it literally catapulted me, but also into what I'm doing today, because I broke my clavicle, tore a bunch of shoulder muscles, and the orthopedic surgeon that I had seen wanted to do surgery. And I'm pretty stubborn. And I thought, nope, the body can heal itself. And I just kept doing exercises that I was doing to rehab my shoulder. And it healed itself. It just took a little bit longer, but about 3 months. And my body was back to normal, stronger than ever. And it just really opened up the door to start helping others with preventative, teaching them how not to get injured, and also to help them through their injuries, and just kind of kept snowballing. And then I went and studied and got my naturopathic degree, and just different things like that, and nutrition. And it just has been just a passion of mine to see people healthy and well, and for people to realize that they really do have all that they need to be healthy, whole, and complete. They just need to know how to use it.
Who do you mostly work with and help now?
I usually work with women, and I work with women that kind of tend to be on their last leg, so to speak. Like they've tried everything, they've tried every diet, they've tried every workout, but nothing's worked. What's that? What kind of problems?
What kind of problems? Yeah.
Diabetic, autoimmune diseases, worked with people that are dealing with cancer, which is autoimmune, but anyway, all kinds of different issues. And really, they first come to me because they're overweight, right? That kind of is the thing. And they want to get off meds, but that's not their main concern at that moment. Usually they just are overweight and they feel frumpy and they don't like it and they don't have energy and all the things. So I really just, I love working with women and helping them break through and seeing who they really are. I'm a Jesus girl, so really getting them to see who they are in Christ, and stop the dialogue that goes on in their mind, the negativity and all the drama and trauma that they keep putting on themselves a lot of times. So it's a lot about releasing a lot of unhealthy emotions that are attached to that unhealthy weight. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 decades, and I love it.
That's a great one of the comments you made there. Unhealthy emotions attached to that unhealthy weight. Let's unpack that a little bit. What do you think about that?
We could talk on this the entire show because it's so powerful, you guys. What I have observed, and even in my own life, like none of us are immune from having unhealthy emotions. It's whether or not you're choosing to stay stuck in those unhealthy emotions. We're all going to have anger or resentment. We're going to go through the emotions. That's being human. But it's staying stuck in those places. I actually did an interview on my Visibly Fit podcast of Dr. Francisco Contreras, and he's with the Medical Oasis Center in Mexico. And I said, doctor, I said, what would you say is the common thread of what you're seeing? Because most of the people there are cancer patients, of why people are dealing and battling cancer. And he said, anger. And I said, you're talking my language. Totally. Yeah, because, our cells know what we're thinking and what we're speaking, and they respond accordingly at a vibrational frequency level. And I know y'all get that. And so I'm all about getting people to wake up that they have more control over their health than they realize, and to learn how to release and get unstuck and break free into the victory and in the way in which God has called us to live and to rise above. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I find that a lot of people don't make space in their life for their emotions because they don't think about them. Many people come from backgrounds, families where they're not taught how to process their emotions or cope with their emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably true to a certain extent of everyone, because nobody is perfect. But I think one of the biggest challenges for people today is that our culture is so fast paced. It's constantly inundating us with content, information, advice, things to buy, things to do, things to occupy our attention. And that really drags your attention away from how you feel and your thoughts, which is why Jim and I, one of the first things we tell people to do is we want you to get outside. We want you to relax, and we want you to be alone with your thoughts and not on your phone, and be observing the world around you and getting to know it, and listening to the birds chirp, or watching them run in the surf, or just not taking their mind away from all the things that it naturally tends to run to, so that they can start to really get to know themselves and process some of those feelings that they haven't dealt with.
Yeah. And love themselves again, We
Yes.
are to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, but how can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? And it just seems to be this, it's an interesting thing. I know that I'm a big proponent of walking, like get out and walk, just walk.
We
It's
talk about that all the time because, something about walking, and it's funny, people don't think about the way that they walk, but the way that you walk is actually very important. And there's a lot more to it than just putting one foot in front of the other. When I'm telling people to walk, I really don't want them to just go out and, cruise along at 5 miles an hour and, think about all the things they were thinking about when they weren't taking the walk. I want them to go outside. I want them to relax. I want them to be observant. Jim focuses on a lot of this stuff. And, I feel like I'm like repeating a lot of what he's pointed out to me, and he's smiling over there because he knows it's true. And, but it's really important that they walk and not be thinking about the things they're normally thinking about, and be relaxing and that's when the feelings bubble up and people start to go through an emotional catharsis, and release of all that energy. I think it's fascinating how people seem to release and dump toxic energy when they're losing weight, which is such a fascinating idea, right? Is it that the emotions, and this gets into some of the quantum biology stuff that Jim and I talk about, the memory of water and how water really works and what the cellular battery really is. Gerald Pollack, Gilbert Ling, Mae-Wan Ho, Robert O. Becker, and looking at these things as bioenergetic emotional phenomena, but then also thinking about, well, what if it's the toxins trapped in the fat tissue that are coming out and disrupting the brain and emotions and causing people to have all these feelings, but at the end of the day, the work is the same. Help them have space for those emotions, help them take in the nutrition they need in order to renovate their body and heal it and push out these toxins, and then give them the support and help them with the lifestyle choices to get rid of those toxins in their urine, their feces, their sweat, all those fun things.
Yes, all those fun things.
All those fun things.
I had a patient one time, and we were going through a process through my 7-week course, and she was just really hanging on to this bitterness, this anger, right? And so we went through a forgiveness process, an exercise, and she was at a plateau in her weight, and she released 5 pounds that week, like after she went through the exercise.
What was that exercise? Will you share it with us?
Sure. It was just basically writing this person a letter and like seriously dumping it on paper. There's something so powerful about just journaling, writing a letter.
There is. And
she didn't send the letter. She actually even burned the letter. But there's something so powerful about just being able to just, get it out. And in fact, I actually just turned 50. I'm in a new decade. So yeah. So anyway, so my husband did a whole, yes, thank you, Lord. But doing the things. But my husband threw a big surprise party. It was just overwhelming, and I just couldn't contain all the love and all the it was just so amazing. Like there's 2 sides of emotions, right? But you still have to release them. But I remember going to bed that night, and I just was like tears just streaming down my face. That's not like me. My husband's like, your highs are high and your lows are low, and he has his hands steady, right? And so for that to happen, I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So I got up in the middle of the night and I just started typing and writing, right? And I just let it go and wrote an entire, I processed is what I did. And it felt so good. And then finally I could go to sleep and I didn't have those emotions. And it was just a beautiful thing. And so I think when we give ourselves permission to release in whatever way we need to do in a healthy way, man, then you can move on in life and keep going on. But anyway, it's interesting how both sides of the coin, massive love, and then, deep-rooted resentment or anger or bitterness, you still have to process and release.
So I want your, on that note, I think it's very interesting that your podcast is called Visibly Fit, because that I think triggers people in their brain to think washboard abs, well-defined, muscles in the extremities, et cetera, right? Which Jim and I talk about all the time is really not what fit is for a lot of people. We see so many women struggling with their metabolism when they're really lean, and you can really see their washboard abs or the definition of their muscles in their arms and legs. And I think that's really interesting because the other thing we see is, on the topic of 50 around the season of menopause, a lot of women see in that season weight coming into places that they don't want it. And they're losing muscle mass as well, which doesn't help. And so it's one of the prime times in life for them to seek out somebody like you, somebody like us. And their first complaint is really weight loss. I really want to lose weight. But Jim and I are constantly explaining to them that losing weight in menopause is often a bad thing because you're losing lean muscle mass and bone mass. Those are very easy to lose peri and postmenopausally. And it's actually much harder to lose fat. And then when you lose muscle and bone, you're actually setting yourself up for falls, hip fractures later in life. And a lot of women, and this is my question to you, is this: do you think women can maintain, and have you seen women be maintain their figure after menopause without bioidentical hormones?
Oh, 100%.
And what's the key? What are the things they absolutely have to do, the non-negotiables?
Oh man, you want me to list them all?
No.
Wake up the sun, get out and ground, do deep breathing exercises, make sure you're getting your proper rest, at night. You just have to drink plenty of water, right? But you do need to release emotions, unhealthy emotions. You need to exercise, move that body. You need to fuel your body with the proper foods that are going to, so many people are in that toxic hunger state, right?
Yes.
And so we want to fuel the body with what it's craving for real, those phytonutrients and phytochemicals, and not just eating whatever's convenient. So it's not the one thing. It's the lifestyle of things, right? And so a lot of times I'll tell my patients, I'm like, I know it may feel overwhelming in the beginning, but I promise you'll get into a rhythm. It'll become routine and you'll just start to see. But let's start with like the one thing. Maybe it's the nutrition piece, or maybe it's getting up and waking up the sun, or whatever it is. Let's start with that one thing, and let's conquer and layer, so that you can feel like, okay, I've mastered this. It doesn't seem so difficult. Now I can do the next thing. It only takes a couple days to master it, basically, and just get it into a routine. But I think people look at the whole overarching lifestyle and they're like, "That's too much." And it's really just a shift in thinking, shift in mindset. But yeah, it's all doing all of those things. I mean, I have a sauna, just like you, Dr. Leland, right? I'm big in the sauna. Um, there's all these things. I get on the vibration plate. I rebound. There's multiple things that I do. In the wintertime here, I have the human charger that I put in my ears to light up my neural signals. There's all kinds of things that we can do to maximize our health and potential, so that you don't lose muscle mass and that you do continue to thrive
Do you
after
use
menopause.
herbs to support women's hormonal health?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You got any favorites that you really use a lot?
I mean, I'll do sweet basil. There's so many. There's so many that I'll use in
And what I
cooking. I
think
mean,
is
I'm a
funny about
big.
this is that for whatever reason, women can tend to get obsessed with plants. You go to an herbalism conference and it's like 98% women. There's
Yeah.
one gay dude and there's one kind of socially awkward dude, and that's it.
But spices, right? Like
Oh yeah,
turmeric and cumin,
yeah,
and all of those are going to help. They're all anti-inflammatory.
yeah.
And so as an ND, not an MD, those
Mhm.
are the things that I studied, but I'm telling you that I don't have to even push my ND
Mhm.
protocol so
Mhm.
much as just to tell them sunlight, water,
Yeah.
breathe, exercise. Like it's really simple to get into optimal health.
Would you say that I'm just curious when that's not well, when you're telling the person to do that and they're saying I'm doing that and it's still not working, where do you go?
Well, that's where my high level accountability part comes in, because
Mhm.
if they're saying that they're doing it, but the results don't reflect that, then I know that that's not the truth.
I know,
So
right?
they're lying.
I know.
And it's a story that they've told themselves. I've done all these things. I'm doing it.
Yep.
And it's just not true. So a lot of people just really need that hand held. And that's okay. That's okay. Um, it's a process, it's work, not just for them, but for us as practitioners,
Mhm.
because you're dealing with people that have different mindsets around things, different emotions, different environments, different
Yes.
upbringings. So there's a lot that is contributing to why they think the way they think. So we become not just experts in our field, but we start to become psychologists as well on some level.
I agree. Yeah, and that's exactly what Jim and I have seen is that when people are not doing the fundamentals, they're not getting the results, and when they're not getting the results, they're not doing the fundamentals. And it's very interesting working with, very lots of different people, um, because I think that particularly as an MD, I attract more people who want or are open to drugs
Yeah.
because they're in my toolbox, right?
Yep.
A lot of people I've met over the years, they just won't go anywhere near a pharmaceutical. It doesn't matter if it is because there's pharmaceuticals that are just, they work. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Hmm.
And a lot of them are very natural. Like metformin is a plant derived compound, right? The herbal equivalent is basically berberine. And still, though, we get people, I think more than you would, who are interested in drugs. And what's interesting about this is that there's always this tension with them and me where I want them to do more of the fundamentals and they don't necessarily want to take the time to do the
Quick
fundamentals.
fix.
And they want me to use the drugs to help them get to the next level.
Yep.
And I am always very, very candid with them about the fact that that's not an optimal strategy and it's not the best thing for them long term. But I also have to say that in menopause, in andropause for men, using these hormones can really give people a new lease on life. And so I love using them in my practice. I just think that there's so much, people have this terrible misconception that menopause or andropause, the treatment is bioidentical hormones, when the treatment should really be a comprehensive diet and lifestyle solution
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily include bioidenticals. Um, and I'm curious if you have any other thoughts on bioidenticals, whether or not you recommend them, don't recommend them, and why.
I'm not a fan.
Hmm.
I just believe that our bodies can get there in a different way, more naturally. If you choose to go that route, that's a choice. And that's where maybe you and I are different in that sense, and that's okay. I think choices for people are great. I mean, there's some people that are doing more peptides and they're doing more, and that's okay, right?
Right.
And so I don't have a problem with it. I just know what works in my practice. And so I don't use them myself. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
And so I've just seen some repercussions from some people that are doing bioidentical.
Tell me
And
more.
then
What
uh,
kind of repercussions?
uh, according to some of the doctors that it had triggered some cancer in their bodies, right?
Hmm.
Maybe, maybe not. Like, it's
Hmm.
hard to say because they're already living a lifestyle that isn't healthy, right? So what
Right.
really triggered those receptors to turn on?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. The bioidentical hormone literature is there's a lot of it, which is
Yeah,
part of the problem. You look at Avram,
confusing for people.
yes, you look at Avram Blooming's work, Estrogen Matters. His book is really why I prescribe bioidenticals, because he goes over all the literature, he runs through it, he shows there's no increased cancer risk, he shows why some of the studies showed that and what the flaws were. But the other thing that I talk to patients about is that it's all about, risks and benefits and what you want to get out of life and how you want to feel and look,
Yeah,
because they're very much, hormones are so powerful. They're almost like the cheat code of life, and that makes them both wonderful in that you can really get people crazy results fast. But also that means that there's some liabilities, because if you get the dosing wrong or you use the wrong form or route of administration, you can put people into some bad places, which I don't like, and I regularly see happening in the bioidentical hormone world. That's why we're very gentle at my practice, and we're really,
and where you get your
we're
bioidentical.
very, yeah, we have a source for organic
Yeah, good.
oils, that's 100% preservative and additive free.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
important.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of MDs that aren't where you are. So I'm just super impressed with what you guys do as far as just the holistic approach along with the medical approach. I'm actually speaking at the plant-based nutritional healthcare conference in a couple of weeks, and so this is in California,
Mm,
and about 800 physicians will attend and to learn about whole food plant-based lifestyle and just
mm,
lifestyle in general.
yeah,
And because you're not taught that in med school,
I
right?
know. We're
And
not.
so the fact that you get it on both ends of the spectrum is pretty cool. You can use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I think the bioidentical world sadly has gotten very commoditized and commercialized, because, you put somebody on bioidentical hormones and spend no time on their lifestyle and their diet, and you can still make them feel better. But and they'll think you're the moon, you've hung the moon. They're like, "Oh my gosh, my hot flashes are gone, my this is
No more
gone, my
brain
that's
fog.
gone. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm back in action." Um, but you're not really doing them any favors, because you're basically just papering over the problem with a temporary solution.
Yeah.
We actually just looked at some labs yesterday from a gentleman who is apparently a chronic stress junkie, who never slows down, always working, owns his own business in the healthcare field. And you just look at these numbers and you say, this is terrible. And of course, he's using testosterone in order to enable himself
Counter.
to
Yeah.
continue to do what he's doing.
Hmm.
And it's yeah, it's like bad credit card debt. These people just keep going and going and going and going and going, and then they're underwater, and they have to really make radical changes in order to come back, sometimes from the brink of death.
Yeah.
if they're lucky enough to have the chance to come back, because some of them, it's their first heart attack just takes them out.
Right. It's a gamble.
I know, which is why, I never just treat a number. We've had people in the practice who had a testosterone that was low. And I just said, look, here's what testosterone will do for you. Here's where your other numbers are. Here's where your diet and lifestyle are. I don't think you need testosterone, but if you're having problems in your life that are related to this, I'm not going to not prescribe it for you.
Yeah. What about these the younger generation that's wanting to hop into these hormones because they've got their
yeah.
their hormones are disrupted because of other reasons.
They've been so
cell phones
poisoned by our society.
Yeah.
And the tragedy is that they think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I just need this hormone for the rest of my life. Or women thinking, oh, I just need this birth control pill for the rest of my life. And you just look at what happens. It's very, very sad. Yeah. Because all these people can be living these. I mean, you see this, I'm sure, every week, every day. We just get people doing basic things, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, and big changes happen.
You really do.
And the young people today, I feel for them because I think that they really lack mentorship and leadership in life, in anything except for how to continue to be a drone that goes to school, gets a meaningless degree, and does a soul-sucking corporate job as part of the machine, that is fundamentally unsustainable and not really, I think, our society is not healthy. It needs a radical transformation in order for people to be happy and healthy. It's part of why, Jim and I, we've both created a life where we can live outside, work outside, and we show our patients or clients that. And, you might not be able to live or work most of your life outside in Minnesota.
I get near a window, that's for sure.
And that's the thing, though, is you get near a window, you have a sauna, you do things, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what people a lot of them need to focus on, not chasing the next big deal, the next big raise or promotion, the next big house, the next big car, but focus on what really matters in my life, living smaller and taking more time for them and their family. Because, the big thing that this comes back to for me is that as an MD, I'm often the person who's taking care of someone at the end of their life. And the big regrets and the big regrets that they have are always related to relationships. Yeah. It's never their job. It's never their corporate work. It's always their kids didn't turn out the way they wanted. Their marriage didn't succeed, and things like that. And when you look at it that way, more money is not going to fix those problems. In fact, if anything, it's going to make them worse.
Yeah.
That's where the bioidenticals become very interesting because, if I have a family where there's a lot of stress around hormonal issues, lack of libido, sexual dysfunction, whatever, that's where the bioidenticals can really make an impact quickly, which is very gratifying. But then I think I assume you looked at it this way as well. I can't help but wonder when I do that, is there something underlying all this that I'm missing and not treating? You can chase that for a long time and not find answers. For example, with a lot of men who've been in the military, the microconcussions, the outright head trauma, the psychological stress, the chronic working at night, and then the exposure to incredible amounts of toxic waste, heavy metals, radioactive materials like uranium, depleted uranium. Are you really going to sort out this?
Vaccines.
I know, right? You're trying to get us banned, Wendie.
Sorry.
I know, right? But you have all this stuff that creates this toxic load that then impairs the brain's ability to make hormones. And so you're in this position where, okay, I have this suicidal veteran in front of me who is really asking me for testosterone, and his testosterone is quite low. Am I really going to tell him to get in the sauna and the cold plunge and get on the rebounder and the vibe plate and eating this, that, and the other thing and not replace his testosterone? Or am I going to use the testosterone to help him get to the other side of this
Yeah, it's the
Unfortunately.
chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
He kind of needs the quick win a little bit in order to even get to that next place. Yeah, you really have to treat everyone as an individual, right?
Exactly.
And when you talk about, our society is broken, yeah, and I would say it starts because of it kind of trickles down to the broken family unit. And
Mm,
so it's the younger generation. I don't believe it's their fault, and I'm not saying that as an excuse, just an explanation that they kind of can't help it
I know.
in a
They're
weird
set
way.
up to fail.
They're set right. So I think as a society, we do have to come along and do the hard, quote unquote hard. I don't know why I'm doing all these air quotes lately, but quote unquote hard thing, which isn't hard, but it's being there for others and being present and helping lift up one another. That they don't have the family unit. They don't have those to look up to. They don't have a male role model to look up to or female to call a mom or a sister
Yeah.
that can give them solid advice and to get them to their next level of living.
Yeah.
So that's where my heart goes out.
Me too.
Yeah.
Jim, you want to add anything, or should we wrap up?
Jim, you're so quiet.
Well, I had a leaf blower going the whole time, so
But I gotta
We
tell
had
you,
that here too.
I think these mics are knocking it out.
I muted it.
Yeah.
So I was sitting here on mute. That's why. But I tell you what, like you summed it up wonderfully. Most of my clients over the years have been women, about 95%, surprisingly. But
Why is that surprising?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just
He's such a dude.
right, which actually plays to my advantage, actually.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I never would have thought that 95% of my clients would be women. I thought I'd be working with professional athletes, which I do, and I have. But emotional trauma, resentment, not being present, you're not getting silence. That is massive. Most people are basically medicating themselves with food, with bad relationships, whatever, alcohol, to not have to sit still and sit quietly because they just don't want to deal with that. Be
Right.
still and know, right?
It's more painful.
Right, absolutely. And then you have, the massive broken circadian rhythm and the lifestyle issue. You get into that. And as you get into the research on cancer, you bring up bioidenticals and cancer. If you look at the research on cancer, the circadian connection is insane. Like the link between disrupted circadian rhythm and cancer is massive. You get into those papers and it's just like, so a lot of times people, they're living this distracted life. They have a dumpster fire lifestyle. Like if you look at diabetics, metformin is an incredible drug. It's a great longevity drug. If you don't live the life of a dumpster fire, if you continue to live the diabetic lifestyle, you have to continue to take more and more and more metformin. And the problem with our society today is people are like, instead of doing the fundamental work, they're chasing peptides, they're chasing bioidenticals, and it allows the body in the car to keep rolling down the road. But eventually the lifestyle is what blows the car up because you just can't keep repatching that tire. You got to put a new one on there. But your perspective is wonderful. And it's great that women have a resource like you to go to and not only just look at the labs and or the diet, the emotional and spiritual side of things is non-existent in our society. And most people are just saying, do more, train harder, turn the music up louder. And it's really nice to have somebody that understands that really you have to have a great relationship with yourself until you can have a relationship with others. And you're going to basically, if you don't love yourself, you're going to abuse yourself. And I did that for a long time. Me
too, Jim. And maybe that's why we can speak from that place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I love what you guys are doing as well. And I mean, anyone that is bringing in a solid foundation of healthy lifestyle to help others live a better life is a friend of mine. I mean, I'm just so happy to know y'all. And thanks for having me on. I'm just all about that, God is a big God, and he does a lot of miracles, and he's still in the miracle business today. But I believe he's just really a lot happier if we would take ownership ourselves and realize that we are equipped to heal our own bodies, right? In the way that we live
Imagine that.
today and think and speak and
Right.
move our bodies. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Tell,
cool. Well,
tell everyone where they can find you.
yes, they can find me at wendiepett.com, and that's WENDIEPETT.com. And I do have a 7-day meal plan and a 7-day workout routine on there, using your body as your gym. So gym, that's kind of fun because you don't need any equipment. It's all moving isometrics, and isometrics alone are proven to lower blood
Absolutely.
pressure.
It's really
So-
fun to watch Jim basically make people really uncomfortable with simple body weight exercises.
Don't you love it? And they're
It's
just sweating.
uniquely fun. And then especially when it's like a high level athlete, somebody who's
Right.
like really
I've
played
done
a,
it too.
is a great athlete. I'm
Oh,
like, wow,
I
this is
love the
really
fact that you had a walking program on your site. That was really
yes.
really nice to
Thank
see.
you. Yeah. And I worked with the Abide app on that one as well. But I've trained professional athletes as well. And they're like, yeah, show me your little stretches. I'm like, all right, let's go. And they're just sweating. And it's just really fun. Like I get a
Yeah.
real kick out of that.
Yeah. All right.
So-
I've got to run.
All
It's
right.
great
God
to
bless
see you
y'all.
guys this
Thank
morning.
Thanks for joining us, Wendy. Have a
Take
wonderful
care.
day,
Thank you.
everyone.
You
We'll
as
see
well.
you tomorrow.
Take
Take
care.
care, everyone.
Get outside.